Hi, my name is Isabel Pisano, and I'm going to be talking to you about my research question, which is basically focused on language barriers and more specifically how different kinds of language barriers, such as not speaking English, knowing English as a second language, or even strong accents, can contribute to systemic barriers that can make education, resources, and support inaccessible in the academic field. I work with next generation scholars as a tutor, and this kind of research pertains to NGS because of their student base, who are students of color with a variety of ethnic backgrounds. So, a couple of key areas of findings from my annotated bibliography were language barriers and specifics and parental involvement. One journal called Overcoming Language Barriers Lessons Learned from Migrant Children dives into studies conducted on children of immigrants, which focuses on factors that contribute to their success or failure in academic endeavors, such as language barriers and parental involvement. The main focus on language intervention includes a multitude of programs that attempted to battle language inefficiency in students with different methods, such as immersion or English only schooling and bilingual instruction. There are benefits and consequences to both approaches, but basically, one means that you're getting instruction in both your native tongue and maybe English, and the other would be basically throwing kids into English only learning. Another article that I found delved into the basics of the statistics behind the struggles of language barriers on student performance and success. And according to this source, English language learners are one of the fastest growing populations within the education system. There was a 25% increase in just 15 years in students who speak another language other than English at home. Learning more than one language can also implement stress on both the students and the parents, as students may not feel confident or comfortable expressing feelings or ideas as language skills develop because they develop slower in an individual learning more than one language at the same time. Parents can also feel more reluctant to be involved in their students' educational relationships because they're self conscious about their ability to communicate with teachers and faculty. The American Psychological Association actually did a study that showed that Latino students who spoke one language at home and another at school were more likely to graduate late or drop out of high school altogether. So, especially in younger ages when students are learning more than one language, it can cause some difficulty with expressing thoughts, feelings, emotions, things like that with students, with peers, and with teachers and academic relationships. So, some key observations and interactions that I've had within my experience at NGS are with my two students that I worked with over the course of the semester doing tutoring. And basically, my interactions outside of equations and word problems are pretty limited. Um, both of my students, though, were English and Spanish speakers. And when I asked my female student, who's only in middle school, I asked her about why she decided to join NGS and partner with the program. And she basically said that she decided to apply to NGS because her older sister had worked with the program and her parents ended up really encouraging her to do it as well, because the program offered her the support that she would need to get into college. And this was interesting to me because she was only in eighth grade, but you could already see her pressing determination to do what she had to do to go to school and do well and to make her parents proud. So that was one major interaction that stuck with me. From another student, he was in high school, but he had told me about his commute from home to school and to NGS. He lived in Richmond, went to high school in Berkeley, and then attended NGS after school program in San Rafael. And this meant a 20-minute drive or more to school in the morning, a 30 to 45-minute drive to NGS after school over the Richmond Bridge, and then another 20 minutes or so home, most likely in traffic again. But he did this because he and his family wanted him to have the best opportunity that he could. I'm also currently working on setting up two interviews, one with a faculty member who was a first generation college student and is now the NGS middle school director, and a student who moved here from another country her senior year in high school. and she's currently managing AP classes, college applications, and caring for her family with only 75% English proficiency, which is great, but you can see how that would be difficult. And I was hoping these interviews would give me a little bit more observational insight for my research, since my relatable interactions were more limited than necessary. For key theoretical concepts, for the sake of this video, I only focused on two, which were structural violence and intersectionality. Structural violence is a more specific tangent of the systemic barriers that I mentioned in my original topic. It refers to a social structure or institution put in place that harms or prevents someone from meeting their basic needs. And while education may not seem like a basic need, such as food and shelter, in this modern age, it is increasingly important to be seen as a well-rounded individual and to gain access to a world outside of poverty, which many people of color currently live in. Higher education becomes an opportunity to escape the endless cycle of living in low-income conditions. And when higher education and education in general is designed for the average white student, it makes it inaccessible and more difficult to attain for people of color that come from different situations. Take, for example, students who don't speak English or who are learning English as a second language, or even a student who is proficient in English, but perhaps their parents aren't. These factors can make seemingly simple tasks impossible and extremely difficult and time-consuming. Things like paperwork, permission slips, homework, etc. Another example of this would be school funding. Many schools are largely funded by property taxes, and obviously different areas hold more wealth than others. Lasting consequences of redlining and other racial barriers have kept POC and communities together, while other cities may be white dominated. And this honestly makes like the modern segregation through a loophole, because it's technically not legal. And we don't do redlining anymore, but consequences still exist. This leaves our POC students in underfunded schools with little support or opportunity. Intersectionality plays a large role in barriers to student success as well, because many students who work with NGS and are located in Marin County are people of color as well as low income. And this unique intersectionality, it unfortunately creates major disparities in educational success, and together it can be really detrimental for academic accomplishment. For folks who face multiple barriers, academic accomplishment can end up at an unattainable goal. So that is the sum of my research paper. Basically just a little snapshot though. Thank you for listening.